Although we may gain an Ishmael who is good in our eyes, we have the deep sensation that we are missing something. We have lost God's presence. Moreover, this Ishmael will always mock the spiritual things. On the one hand, we do not like this mocking element, but on the other hand, we still feel that since Ishmael was produced by us, he is not that bad. But having lost God's presence, we find ourselves in trouble. Just as the descendants of Ishmael are a problem to Israel today, so the Ishmael that we have produced remains a problem to us. Once we are clear about this, we would pray, Lord, keep me in your grace. Keep me in the promise. Whether your promise will be fulfilled today or many years from now does not matter. I only want to care for your promise. Although it is easy to say this, it is not easy to live in. What is true in our Christian life is also true in our Christian work. The New Testament tells us that after we are saved, we need to preach the gospel and bear fruit. But how much natural effort and strength are exercised in the matter of so-called soul winning? Many kinds of Hagars, all of whom were acquired in Egypt, are used to win souls. Every worldly means of soul winning is a Hagar. Yes, you may use Hagar to win souls, but what kind of souls do you win? They will not be Isaac, but Ishmael. According to the New Testament, the proper fruit bearing and gospel preaching are by the overflow of the inner life, by God working Christ into through and out of us. This means that the proper gospel preaching is by Christ as grace to us. There are a great many Hagars in the Christian world today. Do you want to live a Christian life by yourself? It's better for you to stop. Do you want to preach the gospel with worldly means? It's better that you stop this as well. Stop living the Christian life by yourself and stop working for the Lord with worldly means. Then you may say, if I stop, I will be finished. That's right. That is exactly what God expects. Although Abraham fully answered God's call when he was 75, God did not do anything with him until he was 99 because until then he still had his natural strength. He had Lot and Eliezer to rely upon and Hagar to match his natural strength. Eventually, God was forced to stay away from him. Likewise, as long as we have a Lot and an Eliezer to rely upon, or a Hagar to endeavor with, God cannot do anything. As long as we still have the strength to produce an Ishmael, God cannot do anything. After the producing of that Ishmael, he will stay away for a period of time. When Abraham was 99 years of age, according to his figuration, he was a dead person. Romans chapter 4 verse 19 says that he considered his own body already become dead, being about 100 years old. Romans 4 also indicates that Sarah was out of function. Both Abraham and Sarah were fully convinced that they were finished and could do nothing themselves. At that point, God came in. All of the revival preachers stir up people, telling them to live for Christ and to work for Him. But in our ministry, we are saying that you have to stop living a Christian life by yourselves and doing a Christian work with worldly means. Do not be bothered at our saying this, for regardless how much we tell people to stop, hardly anyone will stop. If anyone will stop trying to live a Christian life by himself or to work for the Lord by worldly means, blessed is he. It is not easy to stop your self-effort in the Christian life and your natural zeal in Christian work. Although it is easy to be called by God, it is most difficult to stop your natural zeal. If the Lord would come in to stop you, you might say, "No, Lord, today at today's situation." Look at today's situation. Hardly anyone works for you in what I am burdened to do. I'm nearly the only one. How could I stop my work for you? But blessed is the one who will stop. For when you stop, God comes in. The end of humanity is the beginning of divinity. When our human life ends, the divine life begins. When Abraham was 86 years of age, he still had too much of his own strength, causing God to wait for another 13 years. Perhaps God, sitting in the heavens and looking at Abraham, said, Abraham, you are now 86, but I still have to wait for another 13 years. While you are praying that God will do something, God is praying that you will stop. What you are saying, oh Lord, help me to do something. God is saying it would really be good for you to stop. While Abraham was so busy on earth, God might have looked at him and said, Poor Abraham, you don't need to be that busy. Won't you stop and let me come in? Please stop and let me do it. Since you won't stop, I have to wait until you are 99 years old. God waited until Abraham was a dying person out of function. Then he came in and could say, Now is my start. Now is my time to begin something. The produce of the effort of the flesh was Ishmael, but Ishmael was rejected by God. Not only was Ishmael rejected by God, but he also frustrated God's appearing. Our experience today tells us the same thing, for our Ishmael breaks our fellowship with God and keeps us from God's appearing. We see by this that it is not a matter of what we do or of what we are. It's altogether a matter of whether or not we have God's presence. Do you have God's appearance all the time? We must forget our doing and our working and take care of God's appearing. When God's appearing is with us, we are in the grace, in the covenant of grace. But most Christians today only care for their doing and work, not for God's appearing and presence. Although they may produce many Ishmaels, they do not have God's presence. What we need is God's presence. What we need is not the outward fruit of our outward work, but the inward appearing of our God. Do you have the presence of God within you? This is a most crucial test. The produce Isaac by the promise of grace. The produce of the promise of grace, which is Isaac, is the seed for the fulfillment of God's purpose. The seed for the fulfillment of God's purpose is nothing less than Christ Himself, wrought by God into, through, and out of us. What God has wrought into us brings in Christ as the seed. This seed will eventually become our land. Now we have the seed as our life and the land as our living. Within we have Christ as the seed by whom we live, and without we have Christ as the land in whom we live. This is the church life with Christ as our life. This is the only way for us to fulfill God's purpose.